here's a little query that we have, and I just kind of protected the identity of the instance here, but this is a KQL language. So, if you have Azure Active Directory set up to do logging with log analytics, we do this for, a number of our customers that we do onboarding with for Azure Active Directory. Really good, you really need it for compliance. But now there's a simple query, just only 60 days, you can do longer. And really what we're looking for is what applications that people have been logging into, because I may want to cross-reference this, you see that application ID and how useful, and I can get counts with actually the list of applications I do have, because we can have expired certs or not certs, but if nobody's logging into it, then they're kind of a key target to go do that. We have different processes and ways to help customers, kind of go through that. But something that you can leverage log analytics, because every time they log in, it captures an event. So now we can say, hey, are people even using this application? It has way too much access than we need. It's got some expiring certificates. These are the tools that you need to go have to go do that. Let me just share one thing here. The Visual Studio Code, I'm just using it as a glorified text editor here. It's prettier than Notepad. And so in here I have two different types of exports from JSON. We have something called automation library that helps us export lots and lots of this information and store it. Good for reviews, audits, compliance, all that kind of stuff. Anyhow, you can see here there's a lot of data that you would see in here. So this is the same Puncher app that we're talking about. Some of the redirect URLs that were there, you'll see them here. You'll see the scopes here. So here's the issues, right? Is this resource ID of what type of scope that I'm going to use for it. So this is a delegate scope. Like, what is that? And to try to do that for hundreds, of applications inside, it could be daunting. I'll show you kind of a quick little thing to go do if people are interested, reach out. So that's one thing. So again, and this is the JSON directly exported from the graph with no pre-filtering and anything, but it's important to go do that, and there's a PowerShell commands to make that run. Maybe we'll put that online when we post this online. And the other is we look at the application. So you'll see that they'll have different IDs because that makes them unique, but the app ID will be the same between both. So you really want to be able to look at this, and one is the sign-in audience. So this one is very important. So when you do an Azure Active Directory application, if somebody goes, hey, you can do my tenant or multiple tenant. It might be fun if I do multiple tenants. Always start with your own tenant. If you're a SaaS application, that might be different. But until you're ready to secure it once people log in, this is a part that's been security alerts that have been sent out. That's saying you may inadvertently be exposing your applications to attack. So if I have this application, it's web application, I say multi-tenant multi-tenant kind of thing, somebody can actually take a token that they've logged into, because this all goes into the browser, right? These are all kind of the token hacks, and they've actually logged into another application. They've taken that same the JWT token, web token, and apply it to your application and inadvertently get access to your application. And because you don't have roles defined, they might be seeing more than what you want. So making sure that you have that is key. And one quick little note too is that enterprise applications are also referenced as service principals. So they're kind of the same. It's the same call that you would make to go get both. So anyhow, these are paired up. So this is just an exported JSON from it, that you can see. And there's a lot of detail. Not everything you need all the time, but some have a lot. So just to give you a little showing of this, is that, and hopefully you should see, yeah, okay, good. So this is just a quick little Power BI that I put together, taking all of that data, and here what it shows is I can see what applications were created by what year. So we've been, picking up the pace here in the applications. Power BI is now I can click on it and see what's there. I can, see what applications, were connected when, which ones did we have. So just one view of it. Hey, how many of them have been given explicit grants of rights onto the token issuance? So I could do true, I could do false. So I can see which one of these has the ID token, which is a security thing that you have to go through it. How would you do this for 199 application registrations? Quite a bit. The other kind of views here, and again, all this data is in here. That one registration table that I had talked about, or that one permissions table, I said, here's the link, go all the way to the bottom, lots and lots of stuff. So Power BI, you can give it a URL and it'll pull it, and now it's a data set. So now it's just there and it'll refresh whenever I refresh this. So these are all the permissions that are there. And then I just looked at all of the applications we had, the different permissions, so I can see which ones are used the most. You actually click on it and see which applications has that particular type. Hey, what about application types? So how many are they using at the application level? Oh, here we go. This is the list that have application access that's there. And I can see how many of them are localhost, these applications. So here's the thing. So some of these, they're dev platforms, so there's not such a big deal. But if you're doing a lot of production things in your environment, one of the things is, well, you could use that one app registration to go do it. The problem is that now you have that localhost URL, somebody can figure it out, maybe figure out some of your other pieces, and they're going a little bit more forward. And it's a good way to separate your developers. They normally have different development servers for CI/CD. They could easily put it in their environment variables for dev and staging, super easy if they're doing a lot of, applications through .NET or whatever. There's lots of ways to do it, to be able to target differently. So when it goes to production, they use the production URLs, and their app registration doesn't include any localhost. So it really allows you to refine who gets what and where. So, that's key. And then lastly, again, if you look at all those certificates, remember those certificates that we did, keys and what have you. So this is just another quick view of being able to look at start date, end date, and go, hey, well, where are the ones that are ending, on 2023 on this date. Oh, there we go. And then I can start to, want me to click on it or something. Yeah, then I can start to look at which ones are ending from there to this date, which is in the past. Maybe I should go through those and click on. If the cert ends, is it the worst thing in the world? Well, it's just bad to have bad cert. So here you can see it's a little, not so great, but you can go back and delete them. But even more so, knowing which ones are coming up, so to prevent downtime and things you're going to need to go do there. But it's just a view of being able to use Power BI with the data you can export from the graph, and you can actually pull in some of the other data from the log analytics directly into this. I just don't have it to show at this particular moment. So one of the things that we had talked about, we had that puncher application, create an app registration, put in my app, did the consent, I'm pulling logs to see when people are using it. But now I want to protect it even further, because this particular application is really only for Agile IT people. It's just a demo app, but it's only for Agile IT people, and it's so important. Like, let's say it did something so critical, and I wanted to make sure I authenticated them again. If they walked away from the machine more than an hour, then I want to make them re-log in again. That's the session controls. So here inside of conditional access, you can actually get through this on the enterprise view as well. But if you went through this way, Azure AD, security, conditional access policies, I can target specifically for this application and say that I can even say that in this policy, here's who I'm going to allow, and then I can create another one that says, here's who I'm going to block. So now I can tie, it's like, well, wait a minute, shouldn't the application do permissions? Sure, it could, but I can, and it's probably off of a group, and I can do it off the same group, but now I can protect it even before it gets to the application. So Azure AD with conditional access, with the application registration, will put it. If you look behind the scenes at the conditional access policy that gets configured, it'll actually have two entries. It'll put the one for app registration and the one for enterprise applications. Why both? Because they both exist. They're the same client ID, by the way, so that's the tricky part of it. But some applications only have an enterprise one. That would be my tenant, which would be, same thing for the WebEx or something like that. But for our own apps, we can protect it really fine. So that ID that's down there, 68E, same when we saw app registration, same when we saw enterprise applications. So, when we think about that multi-tenancy, that key, that security is the same one that's in where the app service or the app registration exists. And as you consent on the enterprise application side, you get to say, oh, when people log in, who should do what conditional access, but the key and the value to go get that is actually stored at the vendor, or, if you have multiple tenants and you're doing crazy stuff like that, it would resist over there. So asking the vendor, asking your developers is going to be key. So remember, one of the things that I talked about, I've kind of covered all these topics, but the one is offline access. So when they're doing registration, both in approving and adding scopes, right? They can start off limited and add more and more scopes. The one thing to look at when you're approving is this thing called offline access, because what that does is it's going to give the application a refresh token that's good for, I think it's good for about 60 or 90 days. and the application can now do background calls, with that refresh token they have, which is a string. They still have to have the client ID secret, so it's not like, oh, if I have that, anybody gets it. No, they still have to have the other secrets, the URLs that they have still get redirected, so it's still pretty safe. But it means the application can do background work, which might be what you want, but I'm just saying be mindful of it when you see those sorts of things. So I covered a lot of pieces in here. Hopefully they were helpful or give you ideas of what you need to look at, what you should do for security to do those areas. Maybe you want to reach out to us and talk about, these scripts we have that can pull this stuff in Power BI. We have other reports, because it's a tough task and it's always moving. So both you want to be able to collect it, you want to be able to analyze it, and then you want to be able to take action on it. But, understanding what you're looking for is key.